Hello there, how are you doing? I'm sure you've all seen this. I'm jumping on the trend too. I've lived more in my head than in real life. Everybody has, right? Of course. We love our daydreams because, gives you that dopamine hit. And, even from being a child, you live in your fantasies when you're young. And then as a teenager, they start to become slightly more convoluted. Like, oh, I'm going to build spaceships and fly around in space. And they're going to have giant construction things inside of it and build loads of cool buildings. This is what I used to dream about when I was when I was like 15. I'm like, I'm gonna have a giant spaceship like in Star Wars, and it'll come along and it'll build houses, and then it will move along. And I was like, I don't know why. That was one of my fantasies. Anyway, I had lots of others, and then when I got into college, I was like, oh, I study physics. I'm gonna be a physicist and solve fusion. I'm going to make all of these great discoveries, quantum computing. Yeah, that's my brain. I'm smart. I'll figure all that out. And then the reality of doing anything starts to get into you. But that was the daydreams I was living in. And then I was starting all these businesses and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do solar panels over here, gonna do computer stuff over there. And none of it ever works out because it's actually incredibly difficult to do anything like that in real life. And particularly when you have no money. It's like, yeah, very difficult anyway. And then, that enter into years of failure. And then when you're in failure, like you perpetuate your fantasies in your head because, of course, you want to like dream of a future possibility where life is great and you solve all these things, but maybe they start becoming more grounded for me, instead of like for spaceships where like the physics is completely gone. And though I would still dream about some of those things, like you can see, even I would like fantasize and then like plan these crazy inventions, that were getting more towards reality, like electric jets, and had designs for this and like, essentially drones for people. Like, obviously, that's quite a popular idea and stuff like that. But, they were still now grounded in physics instead of like dreaming about like warp capabilities, which is the fun thing to fantasize about. But then, as life starts to slow down and like, stagnate, I would start to think about and dream more of like, oh, just like, wouldn't it be great if I could be popular and go on adventures and travel and see the world and stay in nice places? And the more like classical things, which I wasn't as interested when I was, 20 years old and being like, then I was then 22, I was thinking, oh, business, get that started and then the rest can come later. And then you spend a decade in failure and just like, so, but like those fantasies start to become more real for me. And then, like having a girlfriend and then get a girlfriend and how I'm in a good place, and like I think the thing is, we all live in our head, but like we gotta remember to live in the moment, live in the day, live in the now, rather than to always fantasize about a future that is maybe will be there, but like that dopamine hit stops you from actually chasing a potential of what you could be. And like all the small things in life, that's where life happens. Not all these big grand adventures you're dreaming of and all these, oh, I'm going to live in a really nice apartment, I'm going to have so much freedom and travel. And like, yeah, maybe have goals and try and achieve those things and absolutely do that. But also don't forget that life happens in the now. And it's really hard when you're depressed and you're failure and you're pathetic and everything about you is falling apart and like life is shit for you. But if you can find some positive things and movement, momentum in your life, and I've had that for a couple of years, and I'm still even more now, like still struggling to get out of it. And I like it because I was depressed for so long, it broke my brain. The failures, they messed me up, and because I was there for so long, it literally changed my brain chemistry. And so to get out of that, it's not been easy, but I'm trying now to enjoy the day, enjoy it, and the energy wise as well. Like because you don't sleep well, your health starts to suffer, and like all of this, like everything is like a negative spiral downwards, negative feedback loop, and that really pulls you down, your energy and your mood. Everything is like oh, and it's so hard in those moments to be positive, and so you live in your fantasies, but when you can start to have positive feedback loops in your life and move in a better direction, to just have the attitude. And I know it's stupid thing to say because when you're depressed, you can't just like, oh, feel happy. It doesn't work like that. I know because I've been there. Right? How much would I have loved it? Because I've wasted so much time in my life and I cannot afford to waste any more time. Life is trying to move at an accelerated rate. And I want to live every moment of it in joy and happiness. Obviously, not every moment in joy and happiness, but like living life to its fullest. And to do so means to take it life with a positive attitude and enjoy the moments as they come. Anyway, that's what I have to say. Yes, live your fantasies, but also don't forget to live now in the moment. I wish you luck. I wish me luck. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.